Mitch, was it, did I understand it correctly, all that Kroger Field stuff, the hope is to be done 2 seasons from now?
Yeah, I think that there'll be some of that will be done for next year.
Right.
The north seating has to be ready for next year, so that'll be done. We'll come back and replicate that on the south side the following year. We can't do it all in 1 year. So then the opportunity to do some of the other things that were on that list that expand opportunities for us would be as we go forward from next year.
What's just the idea behind this? What do you want to get out of this?
Oh, I mean, it's a couple things. I think fans that when we surveyed, the fans were obviously craving more experiences, and I think that's the new landscape that we're in total. We want to make sure that we preserve enough of opportunities for all of our fans in different segments of the stadium, but continue to be thoughtful about how we can deliver those experiences. And then those are the things that also increase our revenues a little quicker. And so that's important as we're trying to find ways to create new revenue streams for our program. I mean, we've talked about the 5 buckets in our program before, the different places we get revenue. And so trying to find a way to maybe create a 6th and 7th bucket out there of things that allow us to grow our program and sustain ourselves. It's the expenses of college athletics are not slowing down, and no different than a lot of businesses, entities, and anything you talk about. As time goes, things continue to get expensive, and we can't be stagnant in terms of our thoughtfulness about how we're trying to create revenue.
What was the idea behind making the end zone club smaller and turning it into a space that everybody can access as opposed to the original $50 million?
There's lots of little pieces to that how do we the construction costs to go with the opportunity costs as it relates also to the number of people that can affect. So there's lots of little moving pieces and all that we're trying to come together in one decision.
Who brings in the off-season kind of stuff? How do you?
I'm sorry?
The off-season, kind of either concerts or things like that.
Yeah, we've got a couple folks that work at those kind of things. We've been working at, obviously, whether it's athletic events that we brought in from Kentucky High School Athletic Association and those kind of things into Kroger Field. We've also had people on our staff that have worked to work with the folks here at Rupp Arena and to talk about the concert opportunities that might be available to us that don't fit into this facility that we could use. We've done that twice now, and that's been highly successful. People have really enjoyed those kind of things. So what can we do to continue to expand things in Kroger Field? And there's lots of little things out there that people are trying other places, and we're open to those ideas. But I said it, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, I said Rupp Arena or Kroger Field at that point in time, we've been using it, sometimes you use it 8 to 10 to 12 times a year for something that creates crowds. If you can get that thing up there where it's 25 to 30 to 35 times a year where it's being activated and you're using that facility, that'd be very, very helpful to us. So it is a big facility. It has large assets for us, a lot of money invested in it. We've got to find a way to use it as many times as we possibly can.
Mitch, what was your stress level watching Will manage both jobs in December, especially that week after the portal was open and he was prepared?
I'm amazed how seamlessly he did that. I think having Dan, having done that when he left Georgia to go to Oregon, they had a game plan of how to make that work. Dan was incredibly helpful in that process and kind to allow him ability to go forth and come back and forth like he did. The amount of effort that took on Will's part to try and be respectful and honor his team that he would work so hard with to develop, and then to be in the middle of trying to hire a staff and get everything in place for what ends up being a really, really short window of time to get your roster right. Well, it's a heck of an effort, and I know the Football Oversight Committee nationally is looking at the calendar. Do we have the calendar right for football? I know that everyone's looking at that. Josh Brooks at the University of Georgia sits on that committee for the Southeastern Conference, and Josh is walking through those conversations. It's tough. You got teams still competing while the transfer portal opens and the school hasn't started, and you've got to get all of that transitioned and get young people into school to get going. And everybody keeps thinking, well, the signing period's not till February, right? That's in the old world that we used to live in. Well, those things are sort of decided before you ever get there. And so the fact that Will and his group did that fairly seamlessly at this point in time it's amazing. I'm hopeful that the calendar we can figure the calendar thing out and get that. So it's, number one, it's not as difficult on the coaching profession. And number two, in terms of getting everyone where they need to be, young people, staffs, families, that stuff like that, we can be a little more ease in that, if you will.
What's just your overall impression of what he's been able, as far as putting together this roster, and what do you get a sense of the fan base surrounding kind of a new regime?
Well, I think that you're always trying to create excitement and hope. That's what you want to do, and obviously he's come in and with an incredible enthusiasm for a new job that he has, and he's put together a very energetic, remarkably energetic staff, and they are hit the ground running. I think that our fans have embraced that, as indicated by the number of people that have said, hey, I want season tickets, let's get going, which is an encouragement to all of us that are trying to sell tickets. I don't know what's not to be excited about. I think there's a lot to be excited about. We got to go play games. Eventually, we're going to have to go play a game and get going, and that is that's why getting your rosters together. Going back to the calendar piece, there's been conversation about where the portal windows fall, and so that spring practice is critically important to a lot of teams, especially when you think about having 50 new players on your team and trying to find a way. If you had a late spring portal, and all of a sudden that roster changes again after spring practice, and you're trying to go into fall with, again, another roster flip, is that helpful? So, again, I think getting the football calendar correct, and I'm not sure we're there yet, but for him to be able to get through the spring, get the winter workouts going, get his culture, create his culture, and get to a spot where he can walk through a spring practice and get his system in there, really, really important. And then you got to go play a really difficult SEC schedule in the fall, and off we go.
Paul mentioned the new CSC guidance out there. We saw at least one of these proposed transfer NIL contracts go public where an MMR was guaranteeing money to a quarterback. You guys are apparently not doing that. How have you seen those conversations go?
So there's a lot going on in the CSC, and there's constant, I would say, new guidelines coming out. It's been fairly consistent, where they've about every couple, 2 or 3 weeks, they're coming out with some new thoughts. And frankly, sometimes you have to go back and redirect what you're doing. It's hard. I think, you've silly adage, you're trying to fly the plane while you're trying to build it. And we've been doing that, and it's really been difficult. You're playing, or you're working at a certain set of guidelines, and all of a sudden there's a little nuance to it that changes what you do or how you do your work, and that's hard. And I'm in the room a lot. I'm on those calls a lot, and it's even changed from what I hear. And so you go back to your staff and say, okay, we got to rework this, or we got to rethink this process, and the CSC doesn't have a very big staff right now. They're working their way through the early stages of how they're doing their work. And I know they're trying hard. Our conference offices are trying to align themselves, and I say that the Power Four are trying to align in what that all looks like, and find agreement in all those rules and guidelines. And everybody, and then we've got to find a way to be able to work through it. And it's incredibly complicated. People think it's really easy. It's not that hard. Just go sign a deal and put a piece of paper in, and everything's just going to be great in the world. It's not that easy. And a lot of folks interpret it differently, and that's just the way that it has been over the history of college athletics. There's been a lot of interpretations for guardrails and guidelines and rules, and therein lies the nuance.
But back to the portal, college basketball's thinking about moving there after the NCAA tournament ends. Do you have any thoughts on that, and do you have any strong feelings of where the college football portal should move to?
You know, I can honestly say I can see a variety of solutions. Each one of them has something that makes sense. There's some reasons to do each of them. The one portal idea for football I think is really, really important. Where that finds a home is really important as well. I think it dovetails into the college football playoff plans and how that schedule lays out. If the college football playoff changes in terms of format and how it flows on a calendar, I think that's really important for the portal. So I think everyone wants to separate those conversations. They have to be together. I think for the good of the coaches and the student athletes, trying to figure out how that all plays, I think that those conversations need to come together. So I'm hopeful, and I'm not on the oversight committee, I'm hopeful that those are the things that are happening, that eventually we can get those two in the same conversation. Right now they're not, I don't think. The basketball portal, I haven't had a chance to, obviously that came out in the last few days, and haven't had a chance to sit down and talk to Mark a lot about that. I think there'll be some movement on that. Obviously you're trying to get to a spot in all of these things where the coaches know who's going to be on their rosters as quickly as they can, so they can get to some opportunities to build culture and practice with your team and get going. And whatever we can do in these processes to get that done and get into a routine and stability of how we do our work would be great. Right now it has been a little bit of an upheaval for the last 2 to 3 years in terms of portal windows and calendars. We just can't seem to get into a flow, and I think would be really, really important to do that.